Okay, so let's have a look at the idea of finding these key ideas from linear equations and graphs, okay? And typically you'll get asked these questions, okay? So given that you'll be given some sort of graph, and hopefully you looked at the image at the start of the video to get a more accurate look at that, you'll be asked these questions. You'll be asked to find what if the graph continued, okay? What is the gradient? What is the y-intercept? Can you create an equation? And then often there'll be a what if scenario. So what if something happens, what will be the outcome? And we're going to work through each of one of those things now. So in here, the first thing is what if this graph continued, okay? And really that's just a case of getting your ruler and extending the line along further like this, okay? And you will match it up with at the bottom. So for one more year, it would drop that little bit further, and you can see that it drops by 2 each time, so it'll drop down to 18, okay, on that year. So if it continued, there would be 18 students in that next year. The next one is the gradient, and this is where we're creating our triangle, okay? Now for a graph like this, my suggestion would be to create a triangle that goes all the way across to the y-axis. So here we're going to go all the way across, okay, as straight as we can, and that means that it's easier to read really accurately off this. So we can see here that the run on this one goes for 3 on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and up the side here it goes 20 up to 26. So the rise is 6. Okay, and you can see where I'm labeling in the middle of each of these triangles. I'm not labeling on the corners in the middle because that's the distance along here, that's the distance along there. Okay, and we've noted that the scale on the y-axis is different to the scale on the x-axis, but the counting system is the same. Now to find the gradient, we're using rise over run as our rule. So the rise is 6. Now, it's a falling gradient, so that 6 is actually going to be a -6. So it's -6 over the 3, and that's going to give us a result of -2 as our gradient, okay? So that gradient is equal to m, okay? And they'll come into play a little bit later. Now, the y-intercept is where our line crosses y. Okay, here, so that's where x is 0. So along our x-axis, it's 0, so we go up, and it is 26, and it's positive 26. So our y-intercept is positive 26, and that's equal to c. Okay, and we'll come on to that, the equation. Now, the next thing is we need to then find an equation. Now we use this general rule, y equals mx plus 6. It's always worth writing that on your page, okay? Because then you can work underneath it and add the flavors into it, okay? So here we have the m, which is up here, which is -2, and the x, and the plus and the c here is 26, okay? So that creates our equation, y equals -2x plus 26, okay? And then the last part here is apply the equation to a what if scenario. And now in this question it says, what if find the number of students for Samantha's home group after 6 years, okay? And so then this would be where the x is the number of years. So what if x equals 6, okay? So we can put that into our equation and see what would happen. So here it would be -2 times by 6 plus 26. So -2 times 6 is -12 plus 26, okay? And so that will leave us with 14. So after 6 years, she would have 14 students.